If you want homemade buttermilk biscuits for breakfast, you got to start as soon as you get up because the oven has to be really hot. So before you get dressed, preheat your oven to 450 degrees because it's going to take about a half hour for it to get hot enough. Now you can go have your coffee, go get dressed, then come back and make incredible buttermilk biscuits. Wait till you see how easy this is. Now I got to go do something with all this. Okay, it's time to make some biscuits. First thing you do is you line a baking sheet with parchment paper, which I've done right here. Now we're going to put together the dry ingredients. Very simple. I still like to use a sifter. The recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of flour, all-purpose flour. That's 1 1/2 1/4. It calls for a tablespoon of baking powder. And these make that good measuring thing right there. A 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, which I keep in this container, but I've marked it. Baking soda. And a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. That's your dry ingredients. You sift them into a bowl. And now we're going to cut in 2 tablespoons of butter. And I cut out, it's cold butter, it has to be cold. We just took it out of the fridge. I cut it in smaller pieces just to make it easier. So there's 2 tablespoons of butter. And when I say cut in, this is a pastry cutter, and this is what you would use to do that. And you just start kind of cutting it in like that. And if you don't have a pastry cutter, you can accomplish the same thing by using 2 knives. You just get like 2 dinner knives, and you just kind of do a sliding thing like that. And it'll accomplish the same thing, it'll just take a little longer. So pastry cutters are good for this. So you kind of cut like that into the sides, and then a couple of times you'll have to get the butter off. It keeps becoming smaller and smaller pieces. And by the way, if you added like a tablespoon of sugar to this recipe, you'd have the best biscuits for strawberry shortcake ever. That's how I make that traditional biscuit type strawberry shortcake. So one more time with getting the butter off. Okay, and keep going. And you want to do this until it becomes kind of like the consistency of like cornmeal, like a thick cornmeal or a grainy cornmeal. If you have a few little tiny pieces of butter, that's okay. So see, that's about it right there. So that took maybe less than a minute to do that. Okay, and then the only other thing we're going to add is 3/4 cup of buttermilk. And I use the lowest fat buttermilk I can get. Put it in there and stir it. And the best thing to stir it with is a fork. That keeps it nice and light. You don't want to weigh it down or make it too heavy. You just stir it till it starts to come together. And it becomes like a dough like this very quickly. And now when it's at this stage, I'm going to put it on my board with a little bit of flour. So a floured board. And put this on it. There it is. And then I think I'll use a scraper because it helps when you're kind of kneading things like that. So you knead it, but only 8 to 10 times. That's it. You don't want to overwork this. You just want it to sort of come together. Yeah. I think that's about it. So that looks about right. One more fold over. Okay. So now you can either pat or roll this out. Now you can just pat it like this, but the reason I like to use the rolling pin that's not here, can you get it for me, is because the rolling pin, this is going to go on the bloopers reel, by the way. You bought it? Let's pretend this never happened. All right. So I like to roll it because you get an even thickness. So you just roll it a little bit, not too much, about maybe 3/4 to 1 inch thick. So that's about right. Okay. Now we're going to cut the biscuits. And I use about maybe a 2-inch cutter, and you just dip it in flour. And here's the thing, you just cut down and don't twist. You cut down, here, and you put them on the sheet. The sheet here. And there's one. Dip it in flour, cut down, and lift like that. And straight down. I think by not twisting it, you get those nice little layers, on the edges. So you make sure they're well spaced on the baking sheet. And can I get one out of here? Maybe. If I kind of squeeze this together, I'll get one out of this. Okay. And now when you have this much dough left, you just kind of re-roll it again a little bit, a couple times. And this time I just kind of pat it. And I think I can get 2 more. I pat it into like a shape that will allow me to get 2 more. There's one. And I don't want to waste any of this because there's never enough biscuits, let me tell you. Never enough. One more time. There we go. Okay. Now, those are not quite ready to go in the oven because there's one more thing to do, and that is to brush the tops with milk or buttermilk. I just put a little milk in here. And take a little basting brush or something, and you just brush a little bit of milk, and what that does is help them brown. Into the oven for 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, they're ready. Let's see how they look. Oh yeah. Oh, look at these. Are these gorgeous? Beautiful, flaky, golden tops, golden bottoms. Look at that. Now what you can do is get a bowl, whatever you're going to serve in, line it with some kind of a tea towel or a napkin, and you put them in here to keep them nice and warm because they're really best served right out of the oven. So, and you just keep them covered over. Now, if you're thinking, well, why should I make these when I can buy them in the store? I'll tell you why. First of all, they have a lot less sodium. Secondly, they're going to taste way better. They don't have that long list of mystery ingredients. And a typical store-bought biscuit has about 10 grams of fat. One of these, 2.5 grams. Case closed.